Okay guys, we're going to be hopping into the first game right away. Good notification from Teams. Give me a moment here while I get all these overlays worked out. Okay, so we are live. We have 228th versus Sig for the Invitational. This is the first drop, Crimson Strait, Conquest, 525 tons, and 228th is in blue, and we have Sig in red. Sig has already pushed up to this Epsilon spot here, and they will be trying to just dominate it with their lights here. 228th is falling back towards Theta. They have their mediums wrapping around the big hill here, and some of their mediums are still caught out at the far spawn, so they're not going to engage this. It does look like Sig has ignored that other cap point, but they are free to drop back and pick it up, so they should have a pretty easy 3-2 cap win. However, by the looks of it, their mediums are moving up on the island, and they are going to want to get into this fight pretty aggressively. They have a Hunchback 4P, 2 Hunchback 4Ps, and 4 Shadowhawks, and those Shadowhawks are rocking ranged PPC AC5 loadout by the looks of it, and they're just getting some good snipe shots at these lights. However, they haven't really landed any killer shots. Most of those lights are pretty much okay, apart from Defunct in the Ember. And the 228th mediums are showing up to this. So I'm just gonna pull up and leave this sidebar. It'll make it a lot easier for you guys to tell who's up, who's down, who's dying. Defunct down 83%. And hopefully it doesn't impact the cinematic experience too much. Okay, so 228th has advanced up to the buildings here, just holding it. Sig is trying to sort of rotate out of the water here. They're not big on cover, but what they do have is that as soon as 228th peaks, they're going to have multiple guns from Sig shooting at them. Overall, though, the trade is pretty even. Neither team is committing into a full push. Lights from Sig are rotating around to the side in the water, trying to see if they can pick anything off. El Ducarino, Panic Button, Tricepticon in the Embers and Blackjacks are kind of off in the corner here, but nothing too bad. Now, as we say that, 228th is pushing out in the water. They know that they have the advantage with no cover, and they are trying to get in on top of this, because they brought Griffins, and those are Brawlers, but Greem in that Griffin is getting focused down hard. 19%, not sure how he's still alive, don't even know if he has any weapons. Let's get a look at this. And at the same time, Shredhead, 68% for 228th, Pandy, 69%, and dropping quickly. On the other side, the only sort of damage going out is Lego Pirate at 40%. I'm just going to hop in here for a quick first-person view. Same time allows us to have a look at the tab menu. Actually, 228th is Pisces 0, first one to drop. Greem is also dropping quickly. Evex traded, it's 1-1, 2-1, 2-2. Wow, these are going quick trades, but it's hard to tell which one's ahead. Just because this is such a furball. The 3 down from the 228 side are the mediums, and Greem is practically dead. So that's 4 mediums down, and just having a look at this fight, trying to identify... try and give you a better angle of it. Oh, Shadow Ronin here in the oh no, he was overheated, never mind. This fight is still very even. 4 mechs essentially dead. 5 if you count Raffle Waffle at 35%. He's probably stripped down for 228th. To 6 down for Sig, with 2 at lower percentages. So overall, this is going to be, I think, in 228's favor, because their lights are still up, still healthy. They can clean this up. It's just turning into a light-on-light brawl now. Greem and Raffle, since they're stripped, they're just going to move off in cap points in case this goes to the late game. Versenix is Ember. I'm wondering, he's stationary over there. I'm wondering if he's... No, he's definitely alive. He's taking shots. Curious what he's doing over there, though. In any case, 3 left. The Chad, Speroni, and Sace for Sig, to only, well, essentially 6 dead for 228th. This is going to be cleaned up fairly decently in their favor. Looking back on that drop, just sort of how it played out, 228th, I'm going to back up here, or sorry, Sig, I'm going to back up here in the water. Where this furball occurred, they sort of stalled out there and they didn't keep pushing. I would have liked to see them push a little harder for the shoreline and just get out of that bad spot. They had great focus fire when 228 started that push. They dropped Green, they dropped, I think it was Defunct, down pretty quickly, but after that it kind of fell apart. And that may have been because their lights were caught out over here on the side by these hills. It may just be a lack of discipline.
Okay, guys,
and
we're going to be hopping into the first game
Shit.
anyway.
Sorry, the stream is still up. Lol. Okay, anyways, 228 finishes cleaning that up. Most of the lights are still up, so... Yeah, both teams went for the mediums first, went for legs, and... Yeah, well, Griffin 3M, 9 damage just because he lost everything. I mean, actually, looking at this, differences here that they had 2 Blackjacks, 3 Shadowhawks, and a Griffin. So 6 mediums, 6 lights versus 6 mediums, 6 lights. But Sig brought... Damn it, I can't close the menu now. Sig brought these 2 4Ps, and I don't think they were worth their weight. Only 130 damage, 80 damage apiece, and... they're capable of a lot more if they can survive in that light fight. Because their alpha is a 8 medium lasers, 6 and 2, 40 points apiece. So that's only 2 alphas landed, 3 and a bit alphas landed. They could be, if they had survived, stayed second line, then they could have ripped off a few legs. But it seemed like they were a little too far forward, just judging by the movement, and perhaps they were the ones who were pounced first. Okay, I just totally missed Raffle telling me that they were launching. My bad. Okay, let's go. What am I doing? Question for the ages. There we go. We're going to be doing 228 as green, we're going to be doing Sig as red. But 228 initially set up, pushed for Epsi. All of Sig's lights committed into Epsi at the same time as their mediums pushed towards Theta. And seeing this, 228 drop back with their lights, let Sig have Epsi, and just move their mediums to set up in the same location, while putting their lights onto Theta. Now here's where it kind of got weird, is that Sig kind of held out in C1 without any sort of cover, really. And they didn't complete their push onto the land, and they didn't fall back to where they would have defensible position. Nor did they swing, say, towards Epsi, where they could have held Epsi, picked up Kappa, and held their spawn point for a 3-point hold, and forced 228 to come into them. So... I don't know what Scotty's referring to. I'm 5 minutes in the future. In any case, there's not much more to say other than it devolved into a massive brawl just in C1, C2 in the water, and that 228, despite their leading element, like Green in the Griffin and that second Shadowhawk just getting focused down, they did a good job of recovering and focus firing down the rest, whereas the heavy hitters, the 4Ps for Sig, were caught out front and I believe taken down, so... Yeah, I don't really have much more to say on that one. Let's try and take a look at what's coming up next, as I consult my notes. Up next is going to be 625 tons. This is 12v12 and like Run Hot or Die, so it's a midway drop, and it's going to be on Forest Colony Snow. So let's pull that up. Now this is... blurred. Let's get rid of that doodle. There we go. Now this is going to be the exact same rotation that we saw out of the drop deck rotation that we saw between the Golden Keshet match and the SJR match. And if we're going to go over what happened there, SJR, pretty much, they all brought Shadowhawks, 10 Shadowhawks, 2 lights, with the 2 AC5s and a PPC. And they were held up in the arch area over here. And Golden Keshet pushed straight on them and lost the ensuing brawl. But that may or may not happen here. And I wish I knew which side was on which, but I don't. But the key things to note is that the high side here has easier access to Theta in the beginning of the game, because there's a hill right here that provides cover, quite a bit of cover from the firing angles into the water and up towards Arch. You have to be past Arch into the gully here. Oh god, damn. Well, Siri can't draw. Into the gulch here before you can actually shut them off, and none of your heavy hitters are going to be able to make it there. So, if you want to rush Theta from high side, you're going to have better odds of it. At the same time, low side has, while the poorer initial movements, they have a couple more choices on how they want to play out afterwards, because they can move up to through the arch and to Pride Rock here, and they get a pretty easy time of it. From there, because they can move up into Mining Colony, they can rotate around. Generally, it's a pretty dominant position here, as long as you don't get too holed up or struck to death. But this is the Invitational, and all strikes are banned. I forgot to mention this in the last match, but all strikes are banned, so capping on this is not quite as hairy mid-game as it would be, well, if strikes were in, where you have to put 4 or 5 lights on a point and it still takes like 15 or 20 seconds, which is time for a strike or two. So, Forest Colony Snow is probably going to go into a fight unless one team is playing it really campy and is a bit cautious and hesitant looking for an engage. So cap points aren't going to be that big of a factor. Drop deck being mid-weight, you can do stuff like the 10 Shadowhawks and 2 lights we were talking about. Both Golden Keshet and SJR did that last match. Or you can do a bit more polarized with more lights and more heavies. Personally, I feel that the Shadowhawk drop deck is going to be the stronger one on this map, because you're just going to have a savage death ball and roll all of those mediums into them. Whereas if you brought the assaults, you're going to have trouble maneuvering them into position, especially if the enemy decides to play a more kitey style against you. Okay, I don't think there's really much more to be said about this map. It's one of the oldest maps. We're all familiar with the water rotation. Not as likely to happen on Conquest, because the other team's also probably rotating through. Oh god, why? I'm sorry, guys. Let's just get rid of that. Oh god, it's horrible. But the rule set for the Invitational is first 3 drops are 525, 625, 725. And then drops 4 through 7 are going to be decided by basically whichever team is behind. The team that's losing picks for drop 4. Team that loses drop 4 picks drop 5, etc., etc. So the maps, on the other hand, are set. Actually, no, I lied. There's an 825 for drop 4. But the maps are set, and so the first 4 we're going to be seeing are going to be Crimson, Forest Colony Snow, Frozen City Night, and Caustic. After that, I think we get a rotation of Tourmaline, Alpine, and HPG. I need to double check that, and I'm not sure on the order, but those are going to be the bigger, more cap-happy maps. The first four are the smaller, medium-sized maps, which we're more likely to see a fight happen. And I'm getting... oh, there we go. They're launching. Right before I run out of material. Thank you, guys. And we are launching into 625 tons on Force Colony Snow. Once again, in red, we are going to be having SIG. It's not an acronym, it just is. And in blue, we have the 228th Independent Battle Mech Regiment, spawning on the low side. So it does look like SIG has not gone with the 10 Shadowhawk strategy. They've instead brought 3 Cataphracts, a Dragon Slayer, 3 Shadowhawks, and 5 Lights. 3 Jenners, an Ember, and a Spider. Well, 228th has gone for a pretty medium-heavy style. They've got 2 Cataphracts, 8 Mediums, and 2 Jenners by the looks of it. And 228th is just immediately pushing aggressively down this main road, and SIG has moved to meet them. It's just going to devolve into a all-out fight right away. Once again, I'm going to bring up this side menu so you guys can keep track of it a little better. Shredhead and Raffle and Versi already... Shredhead's dead. Raffle and Versi already dropped down for the 228th into the 60th, 60%. 228's cohesion here isn't the greatest. They're stringing out all the way behind Pride Rock, and SIG is just getting tons of shots out. SIG is continuing to rotate through the water, just running away from this push. I'm concerned at this point that SIG's momentum is going to play out as they get in behind here, and the tail end of this Kinetic X and the Shadowhawk, Lego Pirate, Dragon Slayer, etc. are going to get pushed on and just caught out. And as we see, Kinetic X drops for SIG. But Panic Button, holy shit. Wow, wow. 3 mechs down for 228th, only 1 down for SIG. 2 more mechs are crit for 228th. And so this push is looking like it might be stalling out. 5 mechs down for 228th, still only 1 down, SIG. SIG is pulling ahead. Their lights did a good job getting in on that push and tearing up some of the legs of those mediums. I think with that, 228th is only down to 5, whereas SIG still has 9 up, and that's probably GG with all those lights on the field. I'm gonna hop into a first-person view for a little bit of cleanup here, just give you some action. It is not quite entirely one-sided, as 228th is cleaning up some of these heavy and medium mechs, but it is too far gone. Tricepticon, Titan, the Beef, only ones left alive for 228th in the lights. And it looks like SIG is going for the celebrity strategy. They are focusing out the Beef ahead of Tricepticon and Titanosis, just for that name recognition. And so here on the screen, we actually see that the Shadowhawks for SIG were Gauss and ERPVC, so they were a very pinpoint, snipey style. And in chat at the start of the match, Tricepticon had asked, "Who the fuck is the Beef?" And SIG provides the answer, "The Beef is dead." Five on 2, Tricepticon and Titanosis left. Titan's left leg is open and half internals. His right leg's almost got open as well. With several lights left up on SIG, this should be a done deal. Titan is now legged, getting focused by the last of these lights. all of these lights still have a decent amount of health left. Soap over and watch Tricepticon die. Just in time. Okay. So that was quick and brutal. Not actually full brawl from Sig. It looks like they did bring ranged, but they just rotated through this fight with their ranged and managed to avoid getting caught on the back. And at the same time, their lights were running just in behind the fairly strung out 2/8 team, just picking shots off. Shredhead here, he was the first one to go down, 20 damage only. If you recall, in that, there was one point where I was just like, wow. And that was, I think, when Panic Button died in the Cataphract. He went from like 80% down to 20% and dead in about a second. So that was some ridiculous focus fire when he got taken out. So Sig has pulled this back. The series is now 1-1, and we are not going to have a short series. So this should be fun. Okay. Once again, we're going to have 2/8 in green. We're going to have Sig in red. 2/8 from their spawn, they pushed straight down, across the bridge, across the main road, and wrapped around Pride Rock. Then they ended up chasing Sig down into the water. Now, Sig, they did what we were predicting beforehand. They shoved their lights onto Theta and tried to get that early advantage. Again, it doesn't matter that much, this being a small map. A brawl like this is kind of inevitable. But the rest of their team also pushed down the main road, and when they saw that 2/8 wasn't going to turn into them, they dove into the water, turned up sharp, and then tried to see if they could get the back. So they basically, when 2/8 ran behind this rock here, they took half their force out of the fight and allowed Sig to slip to the water and get away. And when 2/8 tried to chase into the water, the Sig lights were getting in behind, getting some harassing shots in. Now, I think 2/8, in terms of drop deck, for that just initial push, I do feel like they had the advantage. The mistake here, again, was going back in behind this rock, and the fact that they were strung out on this push. When their lead element had reached just about to clear the last of the cover, their rear element was just finishing crossing the bridge. So they had, I'd call it about 200 meters front to back, whereas on Sig's side, they were decently compact. So that meant that 2/8's lead guys were getting shot when their back guys didn't have shots. This kind of continued through the rest of their movement. Other than that, I don't think I have much to add about that previous drop. Let's have a look at what we are having next. And then I probably should give you guys some history on these two teams if you don't know about them. Okay, so up next we do have Frozen City Knight. And if I was saying that this one isn't a capping map, this is going to be even less. Whatever, I pulled up Frozen City normal, but same deal. Okay. So the defining feature on this map is the ridge, right, and the dropship. Right down the center of this, you have a ridge and dropship that you don't get an engagement until you cross over that. You can use it for pop sniping, but the enemy can move up pretty close to you. The next most defining feature is the area we call low dropship down here. There's a bowl at the bottom that you can rotate into. However, if you're not careful when you're crossing it, they're going to be having the high ground just up here or up here shoot down and murder you. Now the reason why you go low dropship is so that you can either rotate deep through the city and come around, or you can do a tight curl in through this area and turn it into a vicious circle of death, especially if the enemy team decides to push through the pocket, what we call the pocket here. Areas of this map that are underutilized, without a doubt, would be what we call Jenner Highway, all the way along this border. And very, very rarely, you might see 1 or 2 mechs go through the cave, but it is far too easily scoutable. And if you do get stuck in there, then the enemy team can just push the rest of them and you're down too. Like we saw in the last match, having even a few of your guns out of the fight because they're behind cover while the rest of your team is getting laid into can absolutely tip a fight. Let's see what Chad is getting up to. Not much. Apparently debating Starbucks. Oh no. Complaining that they are at Starbucks without their laptop. Never mind. No big deal. So, while we wait on the next match, it is 725. Actually, let's theorize about the drop deck a little. 725 with a 12-man is about as close as you can come to what would you call it? Sort of a wildcard drop deck, where you can see the biggest variety in what we bring. But, based on this map, based on what we've seen in Run Hot or Die, and earlier in the Invitational, playing this map, the most favored strategy is going to be brawlers. And at 725 tons, you can get that done a couple ways. Again, you can go like Sig did last time. You can bring the heavies and the assaults. The preferred one tends to be the Victor. Now, you can bring the DDC. It'll get you ECM. But the thing is that the Victor, because it can run an XL engine safely, or you can even bring a standard on it, its punch is pretty damn close to the Atlas. It's tanky because its jump jets allow it to roll damage a lot better, and it's decently agile, and it weighs in at only 80 tons. Whereas the Atlas, you're going to have to invest a heavy 100 tons, and it's going to have difficulty maneuvering some parts of the map without jump jets. One second here. Just making sure they're not lunching without telling me. So if we see brawlers, I expect it to be mostly Victors. You could have a couple Cataphracts thrown into there. The Cataphract Brawler does it with an AC-20 and 4 mediums. That's the most common loadout, and you run anywhere in between a standard 300 and a standard 320, I believe it is, depending on what combination of ammo, heat sinks, and jump jets you want. For a brawler, the jump jets aren't as important as it is for a jump sniper. Most of the time, you're only going to be using it for the bunny hop animation and for the mobility to get over difficult to pass areas, and definitely not when you're under fire. So on the light end, this being Frozen City, Jenner Fs are going to punch pretty well. However, if you want to brawl, the Ember is going to have a bit more sustained. So I don't really think there is a preference to either one of those. Definitely not the Raven, though. And of course, on the other end, if you wanted to bring a more medium-focused drop deck, then we could have lots of Griffins. SRMs do wreck face now. Going back about, I believe it's a week and a half, there was the Varangian Guard versus Black Spike's Merc Corps game for Run Hot or Die in the EU division, and it was 8v8. Varangian Guard brought Griffins, and they were double-legging Embers. it was ridiculous. It was awesome, really. Okay, I'm getting word from Raffle that we are now getting green in the lobby, so it should be pretty soon that we're launching. I'm gonna throw my ugly-ass face up on the screen, and I'll talk a little bit about these teams. Okay, so on one side we have the 220th Independent Battle Mech Regiment. It was founded, it's gotta be about, oh god, I'm gonna say 10 months to a year ago. It's probably more, and Deadfire is gonna yell at me, but I'll just call him Downfire and things will be okay. But it's supposed to be a mix of anywhere through casual up to ultra competitive, and 228th has been slowly and consistently making a name for themselves, and they've gotten to the point where they're considered top 4, top 5, and doing pretty decently for themselves. One of their more renowned fights recently was taking the Lords down to a 12-10 in the Caustic Valley semifinals match of the First Engagement Invitational Tournament. First Engagement Tournament. Ooh, the words. First Engagement Tournament. There we go. And almost making it into the finals with a surprise brawl strat on Caustic Valley. Having spoken to a couple of Lords, they actually think that if SRAMs had worked at that time, because this was pre-Buckton, pre-Nima fix, then 228th could have walked away with that game. So by no means are they to be trifled with. Now on the other side we have SIG, and I believe they are about 6 to 7 months. I'll get back to this after, because Raffle is telling me we are launching. Oh god, why is my face so red? Oh god, no game suspect date. Why are there no game suspect date? Because they hadn't actually launched yet, and he was telling me early. There we go. Okay, so, once again, 725 tons, Frozen City Knight. Series is tied up 1-1. I need to get you a text overlay to reflect that. I apologize. In blue, spawning on the high side, we have the 228th. In red, spawning on the low side, we have SIG. So SIG has brought an Atlas. An Atlas, 6 Cataphracts, a K2, and 4 lights. That K2 is going to be dual AC-20, and these Cataphracts, I need to figure out if they're range or brawl sooner or later, but let's have a look over here at the 228th. First of all, I am counting 1, 2, 3... I believe that is 3 Catapult K2s rocking AC-40 loadouts, 2 Dragon Slayers, 2 Griffins, and 2 Shadowhawks with only 2 lights. So they brought a slightly medium heavier focus with a lot of AC-40s. Now, SIG is moving up to the pocket, while 228th is setting up slightly back in the buildings, and looking like they're going to get ready to receive this push. 228th, since they're moving aggressively through the pocket, I'm just going to make the call here that their Cataphracts are definitely brawl. Lego Pirate is leading the push, the Atlas is coming over the center. I think SIG is getting their vector here is going to be slightly out to the side. They're not getting a great engage, but if 228th over-pursues with their mediums right now, and the Dragon Slayers don't stay in this fight, then their focus fire could fall apart. These mediums could get picked off. Once again, I'm going to be bringing up this sidebar just so you guys can have a look. 2 dead, Versinix and Shredhead for 228th. I believe those were mediums. But Unfearing is dead, Lego Pirate's almost dead, Undone Jin is down for SIG. So 228 has equalized, and it looks like they're pulling ahead on this brawl, but Panic Button Pisces, they have to move up slightly so that they can continue to have angles in those Dragon Slayers, and that's so that they can trade that armor around. Fight's evening up, 4-3 in favor of SIG, 4 mechs down for 228. And now Duckerino is also down. That's 5 down for 228th, 4 down for Sig. Like, just looking at these positions here, Panic Button Pisces up here in the top, they don't have angles on Damocles. They don't have angles on these other guys. Well, now they do, because they are rotating back towards them. And it looks like Sig has been torn apart by this range fire in combination with the mediums. Ruffle Waffle here, 47%. I think he's out of guns. Just both of them stripped off. Lego Pirates, last one left. He was the one leading the charge. Cataphract 3D managed to live to the end. So in the end, the vector of that push, if we're just looking at these corpses, it came over the pocket in the bottom left here. Give me mouse cursor? No mouse cursor. Okay, it came over pocket here, and 228th was over here in the bottom right set up, and Sig pushed just up left towards kind of basically nothing, really. And they took their brawlers just further and further away. And 228 sent their mediums in after them. And that's what ended up dying, was those mediums brawling it up. But after those mediums died, there wasn't really any pressure on the rest of the 228th team. And so, yeah, even though, like I guess I was saying those Dragon Slayers wouldn't have angles if Sig kept pushing that direction. The thing is that if they kept pushing that direction, they weren't really going after anything, they were just prolonging the inevitable. And eventually you are going to have to turn around and rush those snipers, so good work 228th with that win. They are moving ahead 2-1 in this series. And I forgot to click on a mech, and if I don't click on a mech, the scoreboard doesn't come up at the end, so I can't tell you who did how much damage. I apologize. There we go. Actually, before I go any further, I'm going to get a score ticker up here. Good enough. We'll go with that. Okay, so Sig basically immediately formed up on the pocket area, and then decided to push. Sketcher, work with me here. Thank you. Well, on the other hand, 228th picked up the near point, swung over, and was set up in this area here, where they were a little back if they got pushed on, and the train to go directly at them would have been pretty open. And so I think Sig balked at it. When they saw what was here, they decided, okay, we're not pushing, let's try and find an angle. But the thing is that they went to the side here, and they kept going, perhaps trying to get an isolation, but the thing is that there were enough firing lines from the Dragon Slayers down through this back area here that they weren't really picking an isolated fight. The early kills they were getting, like I mentioned before, were the mediums and the lights that pushed in to try and time up. And another thing I noticed was that the K2s from 228, they did a good job of staying what we call second line, and basically just right behind. Where they still have shots, they're still close enough to get accurate hits, but they are not the immediate threat. or the obvious targets to be shooting at. And SIG eventually did focus fire down a couple of them, but initially they had to deal with these mediums that were just getting right up in their grill, and like, you can't ignore the mediums now. With the SRMs, they're back into that old role where you have the dilemma of, do I kill this SRM face-hugging me? And this is going to give his teammates just back shots and, like, a lack of pressure that's going to allow them to put down fire with impunity. Or do I say, screw these mediums, I'm just going to tank it. I know somebody has to do it, and we're just going to lose some firepower here. I need to take out the big threats in these K2s, in these Dragon Slayers. And so what 228 ended up establishing was actually really good order, and something that we haven't really seen since, oh god, like pre-SRM nerf 8v8s. This was how you executed drops. Your mediums came in, you had second liners who were high DPS, and then you had maybe one or two guys sitting far back, but they could also close it up and be second line as well. But it used to be the team that could execute that sort of layered depth, that positioning, that strategy, would be the ones who won, instead of just a pure savage death ball. And so it's actually really, really good to see that back, and I'm quite entertained to see that triumphing against Deathball. And after these latest, the SRM changes, the jump jet changes, I do feel that the inner sphere balance is in a really good position. Which kind of makes it all the more unfortunate that clans are gonna come in and fuck it all up again, but yeah. I'm not gonna get started on that. God. Derailing aside, essentially, there's a point where SIG got too far out, where they had no targets left to shoot, and where they would have to turn around and close that distance back towards the threats, and at that point they're already too torn up. So, let us load up the next map, which is Caustic Valley. Which is Conquest. Which is at 825 tons. So, Caustic is a map that it is big enough that you could potentially get a cap threat. And where that's going to come from is if you allow your opponent to hold a defensive position along the edge of the caldera with Theta, and either of probably Epsi Gamma, oh god, draw, there we go, Epsi Gamma, or Sigma Kappa. Sigma Kappa Theta. Best Greek. I don't even know. The risk there is that this has to keep your group close enough that they could get pushed on. So there's a way to break it. But if they get pushed on, then you're probably going to see the old rotation game. Work with me here. Come on, drawer. Rotation game, where people just run around counterclockwise. We've all seen this. Or there's the risk that your opponent, if they bring a superior light threat, could play the outside of the map. This is actually kind of what you have to do if your opponent is holding the Theta area. Go around the outside of the map, whichever side you're not biased towards with the heavies, and pick off your either Sigma or Kappa or whatever you have. Pick off one of the outside points, whichever one is safe, while keeping your heavies slightly further back. I'm going to clear the canvas here. And the situation we saw was somewhat similar to this, actually, in the SJR versus Golden Keshet game. SJR set up along the D4, D5 ridge with a mix of snipers and 3 Lerm cats. One thing to note, on this map, Lerms are kind of good because there is no hard cover. And we actually saw both teams, Golden Keshik and SJR, bring a mixture of Lerms in their drop deck. Difference being that SJR had brought some AMS, they did have ECM, and they counter-sniped the spider that was spotting them. Oh god, we are in. Awful, why you give me no notice? Oh wait, connecting in. So, long story short, if they're holding Theta and 2 points, you need to move your big team back to a safer location and work your lights around the outside. Okay, it looks like we're in just in time, and 228th has reprised their strategy against the Lords. They have brought the big brawlers in the form of Atlases and Embers and Shadowhawks and Griffins and 2 Dragon Slayers, just because they need some ranged firepower. So it's not a full committal. We know those Dragon Slayers are not snipers, because if you want a Victor that is... are not brawlers, rather, because if you want a Victor that is a brawler, you bring the 9S. On the other hand, Sig has said, screw the Lerms, screw the brawling, we're just bringing Dragon Slayers. They have, I believe it's going to be 9 Dragon Slayers and 3 Ravens. And those Ravens are going to be packing 2 ER large lasers. This is a decent map for them. It's hot, so they're not the most efficient, but the sight lines are pretty long, and they're going to get some constant poke. And it provides them a little bit of ECM that's going to make their movements and targeting a little easier. So this time I am going to click in just so I can have a quick look at the score. So 228th has picked up Theta. They've got their brawlers up close, they've got their lights on it. Sig is rotating around C4, C3 to start rolling left. It looks like they want to play a standard circle game. I'm not sure if they know that these are brawlers. And if they don't, this is going to end terribly for them. So as you see, they're already rotating down the 3 line here. 228th has moved into the Caldera with all of these brawlers. They're gonna pop out left here and just smash into this Dragon Slayer team. Or they should be popping left. It looks like they're chasing the tail. What? Come on, 228th, cut left. No, so 228th is going all the way around, catching the back. That's allowing the front end of the SIG team to start pulling range. And I fear this might be a mistake. But they have caught Unfearing's Dragon Slayer. They have caught Undone Jin's Dragon Slayer. Unfearing's already down, and no max down for 228th yet. Shredhead's down to 50%. He's getting focused out. He's in a Shadowhawk, so it's not the biggest loss compared to the Dragon Slayer. Undone Jin goes down as well. It's 2-1 in favor of 228th. Oh hey, a UAV. That's what they look like. Sig is continuing to try and pull range. They're trying to escape into the 2 line here, but the Embers and the Jenners and the mediums of the 228th force are catching up with them. 3 mechs down, a 4th and a 5th and a 6th. Wow. Just getting brawled. Getting the hell brawled out of them. Damocles here in the Dragon Slayer. I think with this, it's safe. Sace's Raven is trying to run away, but the Embers are still up, so that's just prolonging the game, especially on Conquest. You cannot reverse something like a 10-1 or a 10-2 that happens this quickly. It needs to be at least 500 points. If I look at this, it's going to only be about 200. So we've got Shadow Ronin's Raven here, Nanorhammock's Raven, and Sace's Raven. That's all that's left is these 3 Ravens, and 2 of them are caught. So it's just Sace and Nanorhammock. I'm going to have a look at the points here. I can't click somebody who's dead. Yeah, it's only 207 to 115. Winnings at 750. And that 211 is actually in 228's favor because they picked up Theta. Sig didn't even bother with picking up any points. So I'm going to back out again. And the key point here, I can, in fact, just dispose with the map afterwards because I can show this, is that Sig, they rotated, they did standard, they spawn over here, they rotate through here, they come around the right, and they push up the 3 line. This was playing right into 228's hands, though, because they set up in their standard stage area here. They pushed into Caldera at the same time as Sig was coming down the 3 line. Now, 228 could even have executed this better than they did, because they ended up pushing all the way through, and that allowed some of Sig to escape towards those rocks in the background there. If they had popped out instead, just as a mass, like turn this line left hard, just over this ridge, they would have caught the entire force, just smashed in the middle. But despite what in my eyes could have been an improvement, I'm a perfectionist, they do take this 12-2, with a couple mechs down in the 50s, but overall still very healthy. This time I did click on a mech. We do have the damage scores. If you look from the 228 side, all of their mechs have a good damage spread here. The only ones that don't are Shredhead, the Shadowhawk, who is focused down, leading the charge, and Gream, the Griffin, who followed shortly after. But even then, Gream, in the time that Shredhead was dying, he racked up 180 damage, just working over those first two Dragon Slayers that were caught out. So, Brawling's back, baby. I might as well bring it up on the map, just in case. But before we do that... Fuck... Did I fucking did. I'm so sorry, guys. You probably ended up watching that through the middle box here, which is going to be the bottom left. I'm really, really sorry. You're gonna be yelling at me in chat. Fucking hell. Okay, let's get back on track, now that I'm done lamenting my stupidity. So, it turns out I do actually have to draw what happened, because you guys didn't see it. Despite my fine camera work. I feel so bad. Okay. So, let's sketch this shit out. 228th brought Atlases, they brought mediums, they brought other brawlers, they set up, if this would frickin' draw, right here, on the corner, the most common setup location, what we call stage. Sig spawned on the far side, starting here. Draw, 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 thank you. And they did standard counterclockwise rotation. There we go. Now, at the point where Sig started entering around this corner here, 228th had scouted it, they had seen what they were up against, and they started going into the Caldera. Now this is where I'm talking about, where they were completely parallel. They were even close to each other, because Sig was taking this inside line. They weren't out here. They didn't have distance. They were taking the inside line right here. Come on, there we go. Inside line. So if 228th had popped out, like just taking this entire force and popped out here and here. Okay. Draw, damn it. Here. If they had popped out just over the Caldera lip here, they would have smashed into the bulk of the Sig force. But instead they continued a little further and wrapped around and then hunted Sig down. In the process, as they turned this corner, smashing two of the Dragon Slayers. At that point, that little extra they did allowed Sig to get out of the most dangerous location right here. And they got some of their Dragon Slayers out to here. But it wasn't enough to escape the brawl. The inescapable brawl. And at that point, cap points weren't an issue. 228th had picked up Theta, Sig had picked up nothing. They weren't going to make it away with their Ravens. Okay. Give me a moment to calm off, and then I will get the next map up as soon as Raffle tells me what it is. Okay, we have confirmation. The next drop is Alpine. It is 525 tons. It is Conquest. It is going to be, hopefully, actually on screen. So let's pull this map up. What? I'm just going to zoom in on the portion of this map that actually matters. Good enough. So, if the spawns hold true to what they were before, I believe Sig is going to be spawning down here on the south. And 228th will be spawning up here in the north. Now, when shortly after the spawn points were changed, they changed, it was either St. Pat or slightly after, they changed the Conquest points, because before Conquest was very similar to every other map, in that they were spread out to sort of like 4 cardinal directions plus 1 in the middle. And it was boring. You spent most of the time just running point to point, not with your lights, but with your entire goddamn team. And I don't think I saw a comp match that didn't go to points, except when both teams just derped into the center point, which was here in Gulf 7. So what they've done is they moved all the cap points, well, 4 of the cap points, over here into this low ground area, and they left 1 over the side, Gamma. To quote Destiny, Gamma is a retard magnet. It's good if you want to go to a long game, but if you're at risk of getting pushed early, if you are at all looking for an engagement, that guy is going to be out of the fight for like the first 5 minutes. So you're putting yourself at a bit of a disadvantage. So what we have instead is that each team has access to 1 point, Epsi and Kappa. And the other one they can fight over is Theta. Now, in my opinion, the south side has a bit easier time picking up Theta. They have a bit harder time holding it. Because while they're slightly closer to it, what the north team can do And what often happens is just a setup, draw, along this I6, I7 high ground ridge. And that's tough to assault. So that's actually kind of the motive, the deciding factor of the South team, is how they deal with this high ground in the center of the map. It isn't as bad as I9. It's actually pretty decently. I9 is a ridiculous advantage. This I6, I7 is definitely assaultable. But it is still a high ground in the center of the map that, you know, overlooks everything, because that's good map design. So, before I continue any further, let's update the score before it becomes... Nah, that's ugly. Okay, continuing on. The other thing to factor in here, though, is that it is 525 tons. It's the lightest one. What we saw out of both teams last time was 6 mediums, 6 lights. So any sort of cap threat here is... it can happen quickly, but also you can get pushed on very quickly. And if your mediums are going to be caught out without your lights supporting, that's going to be kind of a bad time. Understatement, but... one thing we have seen teams do, the North team, is that in addition to taking the I6, I7 point, they can leave a sniper or two up on the ridge here in H7. And that allows them to control sort of the Epsi Theta approach, this I7 approach, just a little bit better. And that's actually one of the decent counters from the south side, is pushing over the top of I7 at the same time as you swing up Epsi and around draw, damn it, with some of your force. Map Tactics sometimes likes to lag out and not draw for like 3 seconds. So if you go to South Force and you see the guys on H7, then you read that and you push the other way, or you focus on getting a cap game out of Sigma, Theta, Kappa, potentially Gamma. Like I said, retard magnet, but you can deal with it. And just force them to move off that before you make a move. Other than that, not much more to say about this. I would be surprised if we saw a full Brawl team. There's just too much space to deal with on this map. So expect to see more of what we saw out of those Shadowhawks with, say, Gauss ERPPC. Expect to see ERPPC 2AC5, expect to... you know, you can actually run that ERPPC Gauss on a Blackjack. I would like to see that on this map, and I think if you bring a Blackjack, you can actually step it up to 7 mediums. Like 7 Blackjacks. That could be pretty awesome. Maybe we'll see it, maybe we won't. Other than that, just gonna leave this map up for a few seconds. Raffle Waffle says they are getting green, so we should have a match soon. One that you will actually see, because I'll remember to check it. Meanwhile, I'm just going to go look up the rules so I know who picks which matches. So that's going to be kind of important. So yeah, Sig did pick the drop weight on this one. They did not pick the map. So they actually picked one of the drop weights that they lost, it being 525. That was the first one where they got slaughtered in the water. So they're picking this not because they felt like it was a comfortable win last time, because it wasn't, they lost, but because they may be more comfortable with the style to play of this map on this tonnage than they were playing Crimson with it. Perhaps they think that's enough. Where the hell are the rules? Raffle says they're launching. You know what? I don't even care because this may not go to drop 6. I don't have to know what map it is. So let's get into the game. First, let's pull OBS up. Yay! Okay. All kidding aside, Game 5. 228 is winning 3-1 in this best of 7. Sig is against the wall. They picked the map. Well, they picked the drop weight. They did not pick the map. They're going to have to pull some good games out in order to stay in this. And I was correct. 228 is spawning high side in blue. And they have brought 6 mediums and 6 lights. So that's pretty much what you can bring on this drop weight. Holy crap, Sig. You guys have balls. Well, technically you do, because you have balls of steel players on your side, but Sig has brought a Highlander 732, a Banshee 3E, and to complement that, 10 motherfucking lights. And they're gonna go try and cap this shit. They're immediately going for Theta. They are going to be scouted by Defunct and Titanosis, if it wasn't already clear what they had just by how fast those cap points were moving. Meanwhile, 228 has sent 3 guys to pick up the right side cap point, which is Sigma. Speroni and Lego Pirate in those 2 assaults are just going to make the Kappa. They probably should take that and just start backing off and let the lights do some work. Let's get my overlay or viewership set up correctly. La la la, Raffles are bad, he's using an ERPC and 2 AC5s, where's the Gauss? Cream is in a Wolverine. Cream is actually in a Brawler Wolverine with a medium laser and 3 Artemis 6s, so this could be interesting. 228 is pushing down, just reclaiming Theta. They know that the enemy can't take a straight fight, so they're just going to drop in here and roll their team as a death ball. Let's get back to Eye in the Sky view and see what's up. That's where the rest of Sig's team went. 3 of the lights went up and picked up the retard Magnet Gamma. But in this game, it's actually a decent strategy. Now the thing here is that Speroni and Lego Pirate, there is no way they can outrun this. They just need to see if they can one-shot whatever they can. That Banshee probably 2 PPCs, 3 AC5s. Doesn't look like he's landing any good hits, because none of these lights have taken damage except Titanosis. So, Speroni, 41% dropping, Lego, 53% dropping, but to fix this, the 3 lights from Sig are dropping down. They're taking Epsilon, the near spawn point for 228, and the rest of the lights are moving to pick up Sigma, so this is going to give... It's going to regain a 3-2 points lead. I'm going to hop back into a mech, see what the points are like. Actually, these points really haven't gotten all that far with those assaults dead. It's only 150 points. Ooh. Says the Spider's getting pummeled by that long-range fire. It's only his left arm. Nothing matters. 160 points, a 3 cap to a 1 cap. That's a lot of time they're going to have to spend capping. I don't know if... Like, those assaults, I feel, had to live longer. Worth noting that it looks like they loaded up quite a few of their lights with large lasers. Whoa, large lasers even. Not ER large, just large. Huh, strange. No strikes allowed, though. If this was... Actually, I'm trying to decide like which team this hurts more if it was strikes. I feel like it would actually hurt 228 more because they would be getting their mediums struck as they were capping points, and it would be harder for them to evade. Undone Jin down to 60% in his Jenner F. It's all CT, mostly, and he's 1 good shot away from death. Backing up, look at this, like, red is scattered all around Sason Undone Jin here. Dechad's caught here by Defunct and Versenix in a Jenner F, and he's going to be worked down. There doesn't look like there's a cohesive strat left on the Sig side. 228 is doing a good job controlling the center here with their mediums. They've taken I6, I7 with the snipers just so they can just overlook everything, put shots out, hit whatever they can, and their mediums and lights are doing a good job of just taking points back. Now, I feel like this strategy that Sig went for. If it had been old Conquest mode on Alpine, you win. You just hands down win. Your opponent has to bring something similar and execute better. But on this, with the 4 cap points so close, it's... yeah, you can just control the center. You get Theta, you get Epsi, then sure, you don't have Gamma over there, but then you just keep fighting. You take Sigma, they run from Sigma, you're getting shots in, they're running the Kappa, well, you pick it up, you're back up 3-2, you start moving the other way, yada yada. You're just seesawing them back and forth. Now, Verosynix's Jenner is down 60%, Titanosis down 75%, Shredhead is dead. He was the Wolverine, I think. But Sig is dropping fast. There's no focus fire. Shadow Ronin's caught out. The rest of them are over there trying to contend with all these mediums. It's only 4 mechs left for Sig, and we're going to have another look at the cap points. It's not even nearly close enough, not even halfway. You need to be at 375 points for halfway. This is going to be series, I believe. Dante's 9th Circle in the Jenner, Mr. G in the Jenner. Last mech's alive for Sig. Still only 2 down from 2 to 8th. They have plenty of numbers just to spread on and cap. They're even sending Titanosis, who is the damaged Jenner, and Queen... nope, Queenblade's just getting on the hill. Titanosis to go pick up Gamma, if it wasn't already in the bag. And I just had a heart attack when I was like... just that niggling thought that maybe I hadn't put it up, but I know I did, so you guys saw this, so it's all good. Mr. G is legged, he is going to be caught. Pandy in the blackjack, putting AC 20s into him, and he's dead. Ooh, look at that jump jet fire. It's actually fun how it's belching smoke like that. And Tricepticon takes the kill and the Warhorn to win the series. Well, good games to both teams. Sig has been knocked out. This was a loser's bracket in the Double Elimination Invitational Tournament. 228 is going to be moving on to face SJR, meaning that neither Raffle nor I will be casting it. I don't know who will be. Hopefully somebody steps up. Wink wink, nudge nudge, Tribird, say hello. Yeah, not much more to say to that, other than, yeah, the Banshee's here, the Highlander 732. Don't know if they had the... like, if they had... actually, I feel like if they had kitted out with, say, I don't know, a large laser, like, heavy loadout, ER larges, ER PPC, and just sat back, and then just, like, when they're running side to side, been pecking at the lights, forcing the lights to either come after them and separate out a bit, and just decoying them, maybe that would have worked better, but they got caught on Kappa just immediately. And I feel you have that many lights, you could have capped it with the lights anyways. So... yeah, 4-1. I'll update the scoreboard here. Okay. mean, I'm trying to think if there's anything I can actually draw in here to... Well, first of all, I'll point out... If their heavies, I don't know, had been in case 7, or even just baiting away, when their lights swing side to side between Sigma and Kappa, you know that 228 is going to be taking I6, I7. So you're not going to be holding Theta. So your most likely play is going to be swinging around the outside, thank you, Sigma Kappa, or potentially to Epsilon, depending if 228 gets baited off, or swing wide to Sigma. That's sort of going to be the route your lights are taking, and you're just going to hope that you hold Gamma, and you can hold the points here. But the points, like I said, are just too close for this full cap strategy sometimes. Yeah, if they've been back here on K7 with, say, just ER large lasers, something that can poke, it would annoy the guys up on I6, I7, take some heat off the lights, or just force 228 to commit a lot of their team away from the points to take them out.